Did you know that right beneath a Pennsylvania town, a fire has been burning underground since 1962, and experts say it won't stop for another 200 years? Or that somewhere inside a quiet mountain, ice forms only during summer heat, and that right now, a creature is reportedly hurling stones at hikers from the cliffs above the Susquehanna River? Pennsylvania may look like rolling farmland and historic freedom, until you discover what's actually happening beneath its surface. Today, we're uncovering 35 facts so bizarre, so hidden, and so deeply unsettling that even lifelong Pennsylvanians won't see the last ones coming. Fact 35. The smoldering void of Centralia. Deep beneath a desolate expanse of cracked asphalt, a monstrous inferno has been raging since 1962. The Centralia mine fire consumes entire coal seams raw, venting toxic gases through fissures that split open the forest floor without warning. The state government evacuated the town, erasing zip codes and routing highways away from the thermal instability. Yet, smoke still billows from the earth, a subterranean beast that experts say has enough fuel to burn fiercely for another 200 years while the ground slowly collapses into ash. Fact 34. The chimes of ringing rocks. In the dense woods of Bucks County, a massive field of volcanic boulders completely defies the laws of acoustics. When struck with a hammer, these heavy stones ring with a clear metallic chime instead of a dull thud. Scientists have tested the composition for decades, yet they cannot explain why removing a single rock from the field instantly strips away its musical properties. Have you ever encountered geological formations that sing to you when the rest of the world remains silent? The rocks hold their secret tightly. Fact 33. The frozen crucible of Coudersport. A bizarre geological anomaly hidden inside a mountain slope flips the seasons completely upside down. At the Coudersport ice mine, thick ice formations begin to grow inside a deep rock crevice only when the summer heat outside surpasses 90 degrees. As winter approaches and the temperature drops across the state, the ice mysteriously melts away entirely. Geologists point to complex air currents and cold traps within the mountain structure. But the sight of heavy winter ice in mid-July leaves observers completely baffled by this frozen mystery. Fact 32. The defiant slopes of Bedford. On a completely ordinary back road in Bedford County, the basic laws of gravity appear to take a permanent vacation. If you position your vehicle at the bottom of the incline and shift your transmission into neutral, your car will inexplicably begin to roll backward uphill. Skeptics claim this phenomenon is merely an optical illusion caused by the surrounding horizon line. But your internal compass and your accelerating vehicle tell a completely different story. The asphalt forces massive metal machines upward against nature without a single engine running. Fact 31. The Acorn of Kecksburg. In December of 1965, a blazing metallic object streaked across the evening sky before crashing into a remote ravine in Kecksburg. Within hours, military forces cordoned off the entire forest, threatening locals and hauling away a large acorn-shaped craft covered in strange hieroglyphic markings. The official government report claimed it was merely a mid-sized meteor, but eyewitnesses who observed the retrieval remained steadfast. Does it trouble you that the military hid an extraterrestrial artifact in the Pennsylvania woods and buried the truth beneath decades of red tape? Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the weirdest things happening in the US right now. Fact 30. The Monks of the Ridge. Deep within Fairmount Park lies a small stone-lined chamber built into the hillside by a group of mystical hermits in 1694. Led by a scholar named Johannes Kelpius, this secret society of monks fled to the wilderness to await the literal end of the world. They spent their nights stargazing and practicing alchemy inside this subterranean cell. Though their predicted apocalypse never arrived, the eerie stone chamber remains completely intact, preserving the heavy silence of men who gave up everything to watch for cosmic doom. Fact 29. The Static of Devil's Den. The sprawling battlefield of Gettysburg contains a chaotic jumble of ancient boulders known as Devil's Den, where electronic instruments routinely malfunction. Modern tourists and historical reenactors report that camera batteries drain instantly from full to completely empty the moment they step onto the stones. Audio recording devices frequently capture strange, echoing frequencies that do not correspond to any physical source in the area. The terrain seems to store the heavy static of past trauma, disrupting our modern signals with the lingering energy of thousands of fallen souls. Fact 28. The Vortex of Archbald. A remnant of the last ice age sits quietly in Lackawanna County, masquerading as a massive vertical abyss carved directly into solid rock. The Archbald pothole measures 38 feet deep and 42 feet wide, created thousands of years ago by torrents of glacial meltwater spinning loose stones like a drill bit. It is the largest feature of its kind on Earth, yet most travelers drive right past its fenced enclosure without realizing they are hovering on the edge of a prehistoric vortex that swallowed mountains of ancient ice. Fact 27. The Subterranean Highway of Progress. Two massive concrete tunnels piercing through the mountains along the old Pennsylvania Turnpike were completely abandoned in 1968. The Sidling Hill and Rays Hill passages stretch for thousands of feet in absolute darkness, bypassed by progress and left to decay. Today, the air inside remains freezing cold even during intense summer heat waves, and footsteps echo with a hollow weight. Are you brave enough to walk miles into a mountain where the highway simply stops and the darkness feels heavy enough to swallow your light completely? Fact 26. The Reliquary of Flesh. Inside a brick building in Philadelphia, thousands of medical anomalies and anatomical specimens are preserved in glass jars, creating a grim catalog of human mutability. The Mutter Museum holds the shattered skull of an assassin, the literal brain of Albert Einstein, and a massive plaster cast of famous conjoined twins. It is a place where science intersects with Gothic horror, displaying how beautifully and terrifyingly the human body can break its own rules. The quiet specimens watch visitors pass, offering a silent lecture on our fragile flesh. Fact 25. The Iron Ghost of Kinzua. In 1900, workers completed a towering iron railroad viaduct that spanned a massive valley, declaring it the eighth wonder of the world. The Kinzua Bridge stood over 300 feet high, a monumental achievement of human engineering that seemed completely permanent. That illusion shattered instantly in 2003, when a sudden, violent tornado tore through the valley, lifting the massive steel towers and tossing them like toys. Today, the twisted wreckage lies scattered across the valley floor, a testament to nature's raw power. Fact 24. The Vortex of Susquehanna. In 1959, greedy coal company executives ordered miners to dig illegally beneath the icy waters of the Susquehanna River. The riverbed collapsed catastrophically, creating a massive whirlpool that swallowed billions of gallons of water and trapped dozens of men underground. The rushing torrent permanently altered the local landscape, creating a giant vortex that sucked in entire railroad cars to plug the breach. It brought a violent end to the northern anthracite coal industry, leaving a submerged scar that the river still hides today. Fact 23. The Geometric Tomb of Philadelphia. Expansive stone walls in Philadelphia hides an architectural blueprint designed for total spiritual isolation. Eastern State Penitentiary pioneered the separate system, forcing inmates into absolute silence to induce penitence. The hub and spoke design resembles a massive geometric wheel, radiating cold stone corridors where sensory deprivation drove hundreds of men mad. Although the cells stand empty today, tourists describe an oppressive weight in the air, a thick residue of psychological trauma that remains permanently trapped within the crumbling, vaulted plaster ceilings. Fact 22. The Concrete Fortress of Doylestown. In Doylestown, a towering castle constructed entirely of hand-mixed concrete defies standard architectural conventions. An eccentric archaeologist named Henry Chapman Mercer built Fonthill Castle without blueprints, utilizing a collection of medieval tiles and mismatched windows. The interior features over 40 rooms, 32 staircases, and 18 fireplaces arranged in a chaotic labyrinth that challenges spatial logic. Have you ever explored a fortress where the walls were poured by hand to encase the eccentric obsessions of a single brilliant mind? The cold gray concrete stands solid today. Fact 21. The Drifting Spit of Erie. A massive arching peninsula extending into Lake Erie refuses to remain stationary. Presque Isle State Park is a shifting sand spit that undergoes constant geological migration due to relentless wave action and shoreline erosion. The entire landmass naturally drifts eastward, requiring millions of dollars in continuous engineering and breakwater construction to anchor it in place. Left to its own devices, this fragile ecosystem would completely detach from the mainland, transforming into a floating island that travels across the Great Lakes at nature's whim. Fact 20. The glacial rift of Tioga. A sudden dramatic fissure slices through the northern plateau, dropping nearly 1,000 feet into a dense wilderness. The Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania was carved rapidly by torrential glacial meltwater that breached an immense ice dam thousands of years ago. The sheer vertical walls expose ancient layers of sandstone and shale, creating a spectacular rift that disrupts the flat landscape. Today, the gorge remains wild and largely inaccessible, a monumental scar revealing how violently water can tear through the bedrock of an ancient plateau. Fact 19. The monoliths of Potter County. Deep inside the forests of Potter County, the shattered concrete ruins of a massive barrier loom like prehistoric monoliths. In September of 1911, the Austin Dam failed catastrophically after executives ignored clear structural warnings regarding the concrete base. A wall of water smashed through the valley, destroying entire towns and claiming dozens of human lives in a matter of minutes. Does it chill you to realize that these towering, moss-covered remnants still sit in the woods as a silent monument to corporate greed? Fact 18. The subterranean abyss of Chestnut Ridge. High atop Chestnut Ridge sits a sprawling subterranean maze spanning over 4 miles of sandstone passages. Laurel Caverns is the deepest cave system in the state, descending into absolute darkness far beneath the rolling hills. The unique sandstone composition creates steep, sloping floors and narrow crevices rather than typical limestone formations. Thousands of bats retreat into these deep fissures, every autumn to hibernate in a pitch-black labyrinth that remains completely hidden from the bustling world operating just a few hundred feet above. Fact 17. The Singing River of Berks County. At the base of Blue Mountain lies a river of stone covering 15 acres of central terrain. The Blue Rocks boulder field is a glacial relic composed of interlocking quartzite rocks created during the last ice age. Visitors walking across the barren expanse can hear the distinct, eerie sound of rushing water echoing from deep beneath their boots. An active stream flows entirely hidden beneath the massive rocks, creating a disembodied acoustic phenomenon where a river sings loudly through a tomb of solid stone. Fact 16. The Dark Window of Susquehannock. Amidst the vast expanse of the Susquehannock State Forest, a remote mountaintop clearing offers an unsettling glimpse into the deep cosmos. Cherry Springs State Park possesses an exceptionally dark sky, protected from light pollution by dense surrounding wilderness and specific topography. The darkness is so absolute that the Milky Way casts a visible shadow across the ground on clear summer nights. Astronomers flock to this isolated plateau to observe galaxies millions of light years away, staring into a void that makes the Earth feel tiny. Fact 15. The Nazi target of Blair County. Near Altoona, a monumental engineering achievement forced trains to climb a steep mountain pass by curving dramatically around a massive valley. Completed in 1854, the horseshoe curve permanently altered the regional hydrology by cutting deep into the mountain slope. This massive earthwork was considered so vital to national infrastructure that Nazi saboteurs targeted it during the Second World War. Would you feel vulnerable standing at a historical crossroads where human ambition permanently reshaped the mountains just to conquer a vertical barrier? Fact 14. The Sunless River of Centre County. Deep beneath the agricultural fields of Centre County lies a subterranean river flowing through a mountain of solid limestone. Penn's Cave is the only all-water cavern in the nation, completely inaccessible by foot and navigated solely by flat-bottom boats. The dark waters wind through immense chambers decorated with dripping stalactites and ancient mineral flows that have grown over millennia. The entire cavern behaves like a flooded vault, preserving a hidden aquatic world that has never seen a single ray of natural sunlight. Fact 13. The birthplace of black sludge. In the quiet valley of Oil Creek, a sudden discovery in 1859 triggered a global frenzy that permanently changed modern civilization. The Drake Well represents the birthplace of the modern petroleum industry, where oil was first extracted through deliberate drilling methods. Before this moment, the dark substance simply bubbled up through the creek bed as a useless sludge. The successful well unleashed a tidal wave of industrial extraction, transforming the peaceful wilderness into a chaotic landscape of wooden derricks and black mud. Fact 12. The Squirming Masses of Crawford County. An artificial reservoir in Crawford County features a localized phenomenon that completely distorts the natural hierarchy of wildlife. At the Pymatuning Reservoir Spillway, thousands of massive carp gather in numbers so dense that the water becomes a solid, squirming mass of scales. The fish compete so fiercely for food thrown by tourists that ducks routinely walk across the backs of the crowded fish to snatch breadcrumbs. Does it disturb you to witness a human-engineered environment turn nature completely upside down for a chaotic spectacle? Fact 11. The Royal Refuge of Azalum. Deep within the winding bends of the northern Susquehanna River, an isolated settlement was cleared in 1793 to serve as a secret refuge for French royalty. French Asylum was constructed by sympathizers who envisioned a grand wilderness oasis for Queen Marie Antoinette during the height of the French Revolution. Large wooden pavilions and structures were erected in total secrecy, far from European guillotines. The Queen was executed before she could escape across the Atlantic Ocean, leaving this bizarre aristocratic colony to slowly vanish back into the dense wilderness. Fact 10. The Hanging Rafters of Sachs Bridge. Spanning the quiet waters of Marsh Creek, a historic wooden structure holds the lingering static of the nation's bloodiest conflict. The Sachs-covered bridge served as a tactical transit route for both armies during the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863. In the aftermath of the retreat, several soldiers were reportedly executed from the wooden rafters of the bridge. The air inside the covered span remains thick and cold, frequently disrupting modern thermal sensors and photographic equipment with unexplained mist and drop-in temperatures. Fact 9. The Cursed Glow of Hexenkopf. In the dense hills of Northampton County, a jagged protrusion of ancient gneiss rock has been feared for centuries as a focal point of dark energy. Hexenkopf rock, translated as the Witch's Head, was believed by early German settlers to glow with a strange luminescence at night. Local folklore dictates that traditional healers cast out evil spirits and bound them directly into the stone. Have you ever stood before a geological monument that felt as though it was actively absorbing the surrounding light and sound? Fact 8. The Submerged Glyphs of Safe Harbor. Carved into the sheer faces of massive river boulders in Lancaster County, ancient markings offer a silent message from a forgotten civilization. The Safe Harbor petroglyphs consist of dozens of intricate shapes and human figures etched into the rock over 1,000 years ago. These sacred carvings are completely submerged by the river for most of the year, appearing only when the water level drops significantly due to seasonal droughts. They reveal themselves briefly before sinking back into the dark, rushing currents. Fact 7. The Underground Pentagon of Raven Rock. Deep inside the granite belly of Raven Rock Mountain on the southern border lies a massive underground bunker known as Site R. Built during the Cold War in 1951, this hollowed-out mountain serves as an alternative pentagon capable of surviving a nuclear blast. The subterranean fortress features immense blast doors, independent power plants, and a labyrinth of tunnels designed to shield military leaders from global apocalypse. The mountain remains heavily guarded, an engineered cavern keeping watch over the survival of state secrets. Fact 6. The Frozen Storm of Doylestown. A towering concrete castle in Doylestown houses a visual catalog of pre-industrial human survival that borders on the surreal. The Mercer Museum stands 6 stories tall, constructed entirely of hand-poured concrete by an eccentric collector. Inside, thousands of historic tools, horse-drawn carriages, and an entire whaling boat hang suspended from the vaulted ceilings and walls by iron chains. The overwhelming display looks like a frozen storm of human ingenuity, casting long geometric shadows over visitors walking the spiral ramps below. Remember to subscribe if you want to keep discovering facts about your state that are happening right now. Fact 5. The Obsidian Waters of Moshannon. Within the high plateaus of the Allegheny Mountains, a unique wetland ecosystem produces water so dark it resembles liquid obsidian. Black Moshannon State Park features a vast bog where decomposed plant matter releases massive quantities of natural tannins into the water supply. This hyperacidic environment supports rare species of carnivorous plants, including sundews and northern pitcher plants that consume insects raw. The ink-colored waters reflect the sky with mirror-like precision, masking a predatory wetland that operates by entirely different rules. Fact 4. The 16 Millennia Trench. In Washington County, a rugged sandstone overhang preserves the longest continuous record of human habitation anywhere in North America. The Meadowcroft Rock Shelter contains evidence of human campsite activity dating back at least 16,000 years, long before the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. Archaeologists excavating the deep dirt layers recovered ancient stone tools, pottery shards, and animal bones, preserved perfectly by the dry microclimate. The deep trench offers a terrifyingly intimate look into a human history that predates our oldest written records. Fact 3. The sunken valleys of Raystown. A massive man-made reservoir cutting through Huntingdon County is home to persistent reports of an unclassified aquatic creature. Raystown Lake drops to depths of nearly 200 feet, creating a submerged valley of drowned forests and abandoned homesteads. Dozens of eyewitnesses, including seasoned boaters and park rangers, have described a large serpentine animal measuring over 20 feet long swimming beneath the surface. Does it unnerve you to think that a creature might be hiding in dark waters created entirely by human hands? Fact 2. The industrial titan of Cornwall. Hidden within Lebanon County stands a towering stone structure that represents the only intact antebellum iron furnace surviving in America. The Cornwall Iron Furnace operated continuously from 1742 until 1883. Fueled by a massive deposit of magnetite ore discovered nearby, the estate features a labyrinth of charcoal storage houses and underground tunnels built to handle the intense heat of molten metal. The giant wooden bellows and iron machinery sit perfectly preserved. A silent industrial titan that forged weapons for the American Revolution. Fact 1. The Whistling Phantom of Chickies Rock. Along the sheer quartzite cliffs of Chickies Rock overlooking the Susquehanna River, an anomalous creature has been documented since native traditions began. The Albatwitch is described in local folklore as a small bipedal primate that inhabits the dense tree canopies along the river valley. Numerous witnesses over 2 centuries have reported hearing distinct whistling sounds before small stones are hurled at them from the foliage. The steep cliffs and deep caverns provide a perfect sanctuary for an elusive species that refuses to be captured by science. What do you think of these 35 weirdest things happening in Pennsylvania right now?